Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we are discussing a 2022 launch from Fortis, and I must say that in terms of feature density, this watch rivals other affordable wonders like the original MIH watch and the Ball Engineer 2 Magneto S. You know how much I revere those, simply packed with refinements for the price asked, and I would class this Fortis Stratoliner S-41 Blue Japan as in that category of watch. Tremendous value for money, starting with the fact that it is stainless steel, 41 millimeters. All of the steel is recycled. Nice to know. Good for the environment. The watch is 14.9 millimeters thick. From lug tip to lug tip, 50.5 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. You can see on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, though this is not a large watch at 41 millimeters. It wears like a much larger timepiece, more like a 43 or a 44, so keep that in mind. I think my wrist is probably the smallest that could wear this well. Part of that is the height of the lugs. They are towering, and part of that is that they are so strong. They flare out, and this is the type of lug that really does look odd if it projects beyond your wrist, so 16 centimeters circumference wrist or larger. Taking a quick look at the strap, it's a special piece. It comes from Germany, it's handmade, it's sourced from sustainable ranching, and it is vegetable dyed and vegetable tanned. So this is designed to be a fully sustainable black calfskin strap at every phase, from the ranching of the animals to the treatment of the material itself. It's also very thick, a substantial strap. They do not short you the leather. Calfskin on both sides. You can see that it is a brand new Fortis strap. The buckle is beefy, and like the watch, it's entirely satinated steel. It's fixed to the strap using screws and bars, and you can see the strap is fixed to the case using screws and bars, which means this is staying put. This is a much more secure arrangement than a spring bar setup. The strap is joined to a buckle. The buckle as twin trigger release. So you must press both triggers before this will pop open. That's exactly what you want to see on a sports style watch. Taking a quick look, these are the strongest lug profiles I've seen since the Tag Heuer Grand Carrera. Now the Carrera's integrated angular lugs date back to 1963. This just came out in 2022, but you can see they're clearly channeling the spirit of the Carrera. A couple of differences though. The Carrera doesn't have huge screw apertures for a fixing bar. It also doesn't have these remarkably narrow profiles when viewed end on, which impart a little bit of unexpected grace. And then we have these little notches inboard that better accentuate the curvature of the case from an artistic standpoint. Everything is satinated to resist glare, as this is an aerospace-inspired watch. We have little shoulders around the chronograph pushers to protect them from shearing and better brace them against lateral movement. We have a screw-down crown, also satinated with the Fortis logo. It is 200 meters water-resistant. The bezel features a little black rubber washer as a tonal contrast, and then there is a little cambered kick to the sapphire, so it's not a simple flat sapphire. It does have a box section, so some money was spent here. Now this is the Blue Japan dial, so S-41 is the model, J, Blue Japan. Japan is what we have right here. So we have a combination of gray, silver, blue, and red. And the idea here is that if this center seconds hand were spinning at an incredible rate, you would see the rising sun emblem that is the national symbol of Japan and which adorns the Japanese flag. So you'd get that red circle. So that is why this is called the Blue Japan. We have blackened hands. We have quite a bit of luminescence on this dial, and I'm going to show you this before I explain it. You can see that it is robustly loomed, and there are these luminescent sweeps that are visible on the dial. And so what you're looking at are little expanses that describe parts of the Werk 17 movements trip up into the stratosphere. So this is the Fortis Werk 17 movement, and as part of its validation, several of them were flown up to the stratosphere for an extended period of time to deal with the pressure change, the solar radiation, and the temperature extremes. And they all performed beautifully, and they returned to Earth safely. So they have been validated, but the meat of that experience was 1.5 hours at altitude. That's why we see basically that time marked on the hours display. That is essentially what you are looking at right there. That is commemorating the length of the stay at altitude. And then the other sweeps, which you can see on the edge of the primary dial, as well as the chronograph minutes register, those represent the time spent boosting up to altitude, the mated climb with the aircraft that brought the platform for the movements up to altitude, and then they were at 0G for 15 minutes. So that's where these little arcs come from. What else is going on? Well, they went up with Swedish aerospace authorities. So the expedition, though sponsored by Fortis, actually took place from a Swedish base. The 1.5 is the big number because that was the primary exposure of the movement at altitude that tested its mettle. Now, other things that are interesting, it's a day date. Let's just show you some of the subsidiary setting modes of this Verk 17. By the way, we have a little space capsule aesthetic for the chronograph minutes hand. So this is the stop seconds function. And then we have a double quick set for the day and the dates. It is a column wheel chronograph, and some explanation is worthwhile on the reverse side. You can see this is the Fortis Stratoliner S-41 validated in the stratosphere. This is fundamentally a Valjoux 7750 architecture. You can see on the back it says in German, "The sky is no limit." And indeed, the sky was not a limit for this Verk 17. In addition to being a 7750 base, the other collaborators with Fortis on this movement were lug-to-lug, which is a movement manufacturer behind the Arnold & Son brand out of La Chaux-de-Fonds, and then Kinesi, which is a joint venture primarily sponsored and operated by Tudor. So Kinesi, lug-to-lug, and via distantly Valjoux and ETA, you have all of these collaborators with Fortis on the Verk 17 movement. And there are quite a few upgrades over the 7750. Fundamentally, it's still an oscillating pinion chronograph, but the cam system is replaced by a true column wheel for crisper actuation. We have a smoked sapphire over the case back. They call this their spaceship or their space capsule viewport. We have satination and nickel anthracite across the bridges and plates, and then other elements are polished. The movement, which is a unidirectional automatic winder, has a 60-hour power reserve, which is a substantial upgrade from the 42 to 48 you find on a standard 7750. The column wheel, which is both aesthetically attractive and a pleasure to operate, is also an upscale refinement. It still beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, so it has its original beat rate. That hasn't changed. And though this is an aviation-inspired watch, it does feature a 200-meter water resistance, making it suitable for swimming, assuming you put it on a water-resistant strap. There is an awful lot to love, and although Fortis is not terribly specific about what this means, it says the movement is adjusted to Fortis performance standards, which it advertises as in excess of COSC chronometer tolerances. And there's even a different regulator here, as we have a traditional set of curb pins, but then we have what looks like a little bit like a Triovis micro adjustment mechanism on the balance rather than the Edicron you'd find on a standard 7750. So we have even a little bit more incremental adjustability and fine-tuning potential with this regulator change. So a lot has changed to the point that Fortis describes this as an exclusive Fortis movement, the Verk 17. If you love this watch, and I actually do love it, I like everything about it, I think this is very cool and great value for the money, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.